Before we start our panel, Jamila and I would like to tell you a little about our office's programs and resources for your awareness. The overarching mission of the Office of English Language Programs is to promote mutual understanding through English language education and teacher professional development. We accomplish this through several core programs and resources, which you can see listed here on this slide. Our programs are administered through local American embassies and consulates to support both English education and public diplomacy objectives, and are overseen by regional English language officers. We have programs in all or almost all of the countries you see here in color on the map. We have 3 programs for U.S. TESOL educators that you'll hear more about today. Those are the English Language Fellow Program, the English Language Specialist Program, and the English Language Virtual Educator Program. Participants of all of these programs are U.S. citizens, have a graduate level degree, and a demonstrated commitment to the field of TESOL. Projects support mutual understanding and build English language capacity at the local and national level. There are both in-person and virtual programs. This chart, this important chart here, outlines some of the key components of these programs. The fellow program lasts for 10 months and is in country at a local host institution, which is often a university or a ministry of education or teacher training center. The specialist program is a more focused program and lasts for between 2 weeks to 3 months of varying lengths. Typical projects are often a month usually. Projects can be virtual, in-country, or hybrid. And the virtual educator program, and the third purple column that you can see there, allows for more flexibility since obviously it is online and it's part-time in scope. So that's up to 10 hours per week, usually in projects that are about a semester long. All of these programs require a professional background in TESOL, and you can see more about the requirements and benefits outlined here and online as well. And I would now like to give a few minutes to my colleague, Jamila Barton, who was herself an English language fellow and specialist, to tell you about some other opportunities and resources in our office before getting to our panelists. Jamila, over to you.
Hi, everyone. So as Russ said, I am Jamila Barton, and I've been in the TESOL field for over 20 years. But right now I work for the Office of English Language Programs. I'm currently a senior program manager for the Virtual Engagement and Materials Development team. And I'm also a member of BELPAF, so I've been here since this morning, and I'm excited to be here. And hear from a lot of the presenters, some of the really good ideas that you have. What you see here is our website, americanenglish.state.gov, and our mission in the virtual engagement team is to promote English language learning and provide professional development for English language teachers around the world. And we see this as an important part of the Department of State's efforts to foster mutual understanding between the American people and people from other countries. Our team collaborates with U.S. citizen or U.S.-based colleges and universities to provide programming and resources overseas. So if you are a U.S. citizen and an English language professional, you can find opportunities to partner with us on our main website. So this would be the website. And if you click About Us and check out partnership opportunities, you will see all the different ways that you can partner with us. If you're an international English language professional, you can learn about our programs and participate in them. And you can also download free open educational resources for use in your classroom. And in the next couple of minutes, I'm just going to cover some of the programs and resources we have available for you. But please remember, everything I say can be found on this website you see right here. And most of the slides that I'm going to cover will have QR codes. So if you want to use your cell phones to go to the other links directly, that would be the best. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So one of the great resources we have is a peer-reviewed journal that the United States Department of State publishes for English language teachers overseas. And it offers articles that reflect current TESOL theory and practice for English language educators. And it's distributed in more than 100 countries through our embassies. But all the copies of forum and submission guidelines can be found at our website if you click on English Teaching Forum right up here, and you'll see it up here on the menu. Next slide. We also have on our website, we have links to several free downloadable open educational resources on our website. Many of our publications are for English language learners. We provide lessons on learning English through American music, through American culture. We have several graded readers. We have games. And then we have more focused lessons on English language skills like reading, writing, listening, and speaking, all free and open educational resource. For English language teachers overseas, we also have publications on topics in English teacher development. One of my favorite is using art in the classroom. It's called Create to Communicate. And another one that a lot of teachers like is the Monster Book. It's 150 language teaching activities that you can use in the classroom. And as a part of our commitment to virtual engagement, I think we should be looking at the YouTube slide. We use YouTube and social media to promote English language teaching and learning overseas. Our American English YouTube channel houses past webinars that we've had, teaching methodology videos, short animated videos for learners and also for teachers. And you can visit this channel for hundreds of teacher development and English language learning videos. And there's the QR code right there. And then right underneath it is actually the link itself. And so, so now we can talk about Facebook. We have two Facebook pages. On the first one is for learners. This is American English at State, and it provides English language learning materials and short videos and posts for learners worldwide. We usually post once a day. And so if you have students who are very tech savvy and like social media, it's a great way to have them communicate and practice their English skills and share content with others. We also have a Facebook page for international English language educators with teaching resources and opportunities to interact with American English language professionals. We have a Teacher's Corner series that operates on this page where we invite American English language professionals to be a monthly guest expert, and they choose a topic, and if they're chosen, it's a paid position. They will be publishing material for that month and moderating and facilitating conversations. We actually have that open right now until August 11th for guest experts in 2024. You do have to be a US citizen. And if you use the QR code, it should take you right to the application if you're interested. The next big thing we have is the Open program. It's the Online Professional English Network. And we partner with US universities, institutions, and TESOL professionals to provide innovative online courses, webinar programming that we do 4 times a year. And then also global online courses and that are more closed, and that you would have to get the regional English language officer in your country to nominate you for. So international English language professionals can attend our live webinars through the Facebook page, the American English for Educators page, and they will receive digital badges after attending 4 of the 6 sessions in a series. They can also register and take massive open online courses directly from the webpage, and if you use the QR code, it will take you to that webpage, and they can contact their RELO, or the Regional English Language Officer in their country, to get involved in global online courses and local events overseas. And American English language professionals can present webinars and develop courses for us through the US-based colleges and universities. So actually the call for proposals for webinars for 2024 is actually going to be open from August 14th to October 20th. So I would recommend, if you're interested, to send an email to ECA-OELP@state.gov. It's the email is on the slide, to sign up for our domestic outreach newsletter. We publish that 4 times a year, so with all of our opportunities available for American citizens. And so that's the best way to find out about opportunities. And the last thing I wanted to share with you, last program I want to share with you, is a program that, through our English Access program, for virtual and in-person exchanges. We partner with colleges and universities, again, to host these exchanges for international English language professionals to improve their English language education and give them tools in current topics in TESOL. So if you are an international English language professional and you are interested, you'll need to contact your regional English language officer to find out more. And if you're an American English language professional, we do partner with United States colleges, universities, and nonprofits for these exchanges. So again, getting onto that domestic outreach newsletter by emailing ECA-OELP@state.gov is the way to do that. Or if you're specifically interested in exchanges, you can actually contact Access Exchanges at fhi360.org. They also have a list specifically for exchanges that they'll send out. And I think I have one more slide, just kind of summary. Here's a summary of our programs. And I on one side here, I have US citizens and what you can do with us. And then I have the other side, you have international citizens and what you can do with us. And if you're an international English language professional, I encourage you to reach out to your regional English language officer in your country to find out more about these things, and also use the website to check out our open educational resources and our peer-reviewed journal. Both US and international educators are welcome to submit articles to the English Teaching Forum, and the submission guidelines are on the website. Because I've been here since this morning, I've heard several presenters discuss topics like social emotional learning and 21st century skills and global citizenship that might be great as an article for our journal. And if you're a US citizen, check out our partnership opportunities webpage on our website for ways to collaborate with our office to provide content overseas. Thank you so much.
Terrific. Thank you, Jamila. That is a lot of really great, important information that you just shared. And now let's get to our panelists. We have a lot to talk about. Our first panelist I'd like to introduce, we'll just sort of go around and introduce everyone before starting with some of our questions, is Walter Henderson. Walter was an English language specialist in Dominican Republic in 2021 to 22. Walter is a publisher and partner at Montaro and Associates Educational Services. So Walter, would you like to say hello and maybe tell us a little bit more about your project? I think we have some pictures. There you go. I don't know if you want to talk about those. Hi, Walter.
Sure. Hi, Russ, and hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today with you. This is very interesting, very fascinating to me. As Russ mentioned, I acted as a specialist in the Dominican Republic. You see these images there. I was brought in to conduct the needs assessment of their English language program. And in this analysis, we looked at redesigning the English language curricula, and also looked at their materials, the materials that they were using. And we did a lot of sort of research into the proficiency test to figure out how we could strengthen their program. So in doing this, we came up with a few prototypes of possibly developing our own sort of textbook for that particular institution. And you can see some of the images that are there, along with some images of the students who were quite lovely to work with.
Excellent. Thank you, Walter. Next, I'd like to introduce another of our panelists who was an English language fellow. This is Ali Rashid. She was a fellow in Guinea in 2017 to 19. She is currently an assistant professor and an ESL program coordinator at Bluegrass Community and Technical College. Ali, would you like to say hello and tell us a little more about your project, please?
Yes, I've been here since the morning, heard some great presentations, and happy to share things about English language programs with you all. As Russ said, I was a fellow in Guinea for a couple of years, and my primary duty there was to serve as an instructor at Kofi Annan University, where I worked with primarily junior and senior students who were majoring in either international relations, computer science, or health sciences. So with them, I developed a lot of ESP materials and helped them to get a better grasp of the fields that they were trying to enter. Some of these pictures that you see before you, the first one is shipment of almost 2,500 books that I was able to get to Guinea from a local nonprofit here in Lexington, Kentucky, which is where I live. And the books were for our host library and also for K through 12 schools throughout the country. And they were very appreciative of that. And the second one is myself and some of the other fellows who were in Africa during the time I was there. We did some teacher training for K through 12 teachers who were working right across the border from Ethiopia and South Sudan in refugee camps. And then the last one is a project that I had with some of my senior students called the Gap Semester Project, where I was able to connect some students with US mentors for the fields that they were aspiring to. So that was one of my great side projects. That's it.
Thanks, Ali. Great to hear from you. And next, I'd like to introduce Bethany Vanderhorst, who was a virtual educator in Morocco in 2021 to 23. She is an English instructor at Colegio Sagrada Familia. Bethany, welcome. Can you please say hello and tell us about a bit about your project?
Hello. I just wanted to make sure you could hear me. I was having a few problems with my volume, but it seems to be working now. Perfect.
Hear you clearly. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so I've actually had 3 virtual projects with Morocco. One in Agadir, the second in El Jadida, and the most recent was in Tangier. And so in the first photo, you see an example of a final project the participants made. I gave them the options to make a podcast, video, or live demonstration. And the class focused on professional ethics and values in education. So I proposed 3 ethical situations they could encounter in the classroom. And they had to determine the best course of action by analyzing facts, consulting their values, and applying different critical thinking skills, and to assess and to prepare on how they would handle the situation in the future. The second picture you see is an example of myself using Google Classroom. And I use other online platforms such as Padlet, Google Jamboard, and Canvas. to allow participants to collaborate and work together, even if they're all in different locations. And the last photo you see is from my course, EFL and Intercultural Awareness, with my teachers in El Jadida. And the course focused on different methods to teach English and different topics to incorporate in lessons, such as gender, race, and immigration. And by doing this, the pre-service teachers were exposed to current and past events, which they can share with their future students. But even more, by incorporating culture into their English lessons, students will have the opportunity to expand their linguistic skills and cultural knowledge to effectively communicate with people from around the world.
Excellent examples, Bethany. Thanks for telling us about that. And let's get started with some of our prepared questions for the panelists. So our first one is kind of a good starting question, I think. How did you learn about the program and what motivated you to apply? And I'll ask Bethany to address this first.
Okay. So how did I learn about English language programs? So after I graduated from college, my mother actually signed me up to receive emails from the U.S. Department of State Careers for different job opportunities. And in August of 2020, I came across English language programs, and I went to the website and I read through the testimonials, and it really motivated me to apply, just because I love to immerse myself into different cultures, but I would also be able to use some of my experience from teaching, as well as the year before I applied, I received my master's in multicultural and bilingual education. So again, I wanted to apply some new knowledge that I just learned, my experience from teaching in Spain. However, I didn't read the requirements in detail, so I didn't think that I qualified. And it wasn't until a few months later in December 2020, I was on Instagram and I came across English language programs again, and I came across the job opportunity. And I reached out to a member on the ELP team, and I talked about my experience and how could I get my master's accredited. And fortunately, it wasn't too much to do. So I applied, and because of the COVID restrictions, I got placed with virtual education, but I think it was a blessing in disguise, because I was able to stay in Spain, but still reach out to people in Morocco. And that's what I have been doing up until this past May.
Terrific, thank you. Can I ask Ollie to address the same question? Ollie, how did you learn about the program and what motivated you to apply?
Sure. I found out about English language programs in a couple of ways. First, I was already working on my MA TESOL degree. So I did a study abroad program with one of my professors was an alumni of the program. So he was just so excited about it, wouldn't stop talking about it, and really encouraged me to apply. I was already motivated to teach abroad, so it sounded like a great idea. And secondly, I attended a presentation at our state's TESOL conference, and it was a fellow who had recently returned from her fellowship. And again, she was there to answer all the questions that I had and to alleviate my fears and worries about going abroad or teaching abroad. So after I finished my degree in 2016, I applied immediately and fortunately was selected to be one of the 2017 fellows and went off to Conakry, Guinea to teach at University of Kofi Annan. Hopefully today, everybody who's listening, people of color, you'll learn how we, the panelists, have interacted with English language programs and the opportunities available. I'm always open and always like to encourage people to check out the program and find out how you can benefit from the opportunities that are there. So I'm after this presentation, I'm available for any questions.
Very nice. Thank you, Ollie. Walter, can we hear from you? How did you hear about the program and your motivation to become part of it?
Well, I heard about the program many years ago. It seems like yesterday, but it was actually a long time before Instagram and Facebook and everything existed. So it was through word of mouth. After graduate school, I worked for a few years in teacher training for Egyptian educators with the United States Agency for International Development, who partnered with Georgia State University, where I studied. That was a rewarding experience. And after that, I wanted to do more program development and teacher training in particular. And by happy chance, a work colleague and a former classmate of mine learned about the English language program. And then before we knew it, off she went to Bangladesh and Thailand. And she really thought that I would be a good fit for the program and encouraged me to explore and consider joining the program, which I did. And then before I realized it, I was sent off to Saudi Arabia and then to Mexico, working as a fellow and doing exactly what I dreamed of doing. So.
Terrific. Thanks for sharing those experiences. Our next question. Can you talk more about your experience as a Black American serving as a cultural ambassador for English language programs? In particular, what challenges and opportunities did you encounter during your project, and what kind of support did the program provide, if that's applicable to your case? I'll ask Ollie to start us off with this one.
Muted. I have to say that because I went to Guinea, which is a country full of African people, and so being there as an African American, I didn't really stand out a lot. So whether or not I was shopping in the local market or at school, at work, I kind of blended in. So when people did find out, though, that I was Black American, the main thing they wanted to know was what was life really like in the U.S. And I was able to share that with them and share that with my students on a daily basis. In the classroom, we would talk about things like politics and government structure, race relations, tribal concerns, and really try to compare and contrast what was happening currently in both of the countries. As far as challenges, I also didn't face many challenges as far as selling into the country. Some fellows, when they first get to the country, they may have some problems with housing or with transportation, but all of that was arranged for me before I got there. But there was another fellow in Guinea with me who had some problems with securing his house, and some things were taken, but the thing is that the embassy staff is there to help you in every instance. I mean, they were there immediately to help him get him relocated, took care of new housing and transportation. So my point is that you're never alone when you're on your, in your position. There's always someone there who will help you with your day-to-day challenges and help you get acclimated so you can do the job that you came there to do. So again, I didn't have a lot of challenges, but they are out there, but there's someone there to help you with all of those.
Terrific, thank you. Walter, can you talk about your experience as a Black American serving as a cultural ambassador?
Sure. I just wanted to say that many African Americans, many Black Americans have some trepidation about traveling and working abroad. and particularly in countries where there are few, if any, people of color. And if they don't personally worry about it, if you don't worry about it, then your parents do, your family members do, and your friends do as well. And everyone around you sort of questions how you'll be received and what are your actual day-to-day challenges. So that's pretty constant. The English language programs has always been very supportive, and they continue to be in this regard. But sometimes there are sort of situations that arise and you're not prepared for it, and no one knows what to do. And I remember early on when I first started, I went to work in a city called Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. And there we were helping to build a new business English language program for the city's public schools, public high schools. When we arrived, I think it was our first day at one of the first schools, all of the kids were waiting outside. There must have been about 100 to 200 of them, all dressed in traditional dress with robes and the headdress and everything. So that created quite an interesting scene for us to sort of witness. But they suddenly started calling out the N-word, and it was obviously directed at me. So all of these kids were chanting the same thing. And of course, I was a bit stunned. My colleagues were shocked. None of us knew what to do. They looked at me, I looked at them. But it turned out that the students, they heard about our arrival beforehand. They'd seen photos of us, and I, in particular, was very interesting to them. And their reaction to me was one of sort of curious excitement. They'd never seen an African-American in person, but they'd seen African-Americans in films and in music videos. And in fact, at the time, hip hop music was really popular worldwide. And I discovered shortly afterwards that they'd heard the N-word so much in music, and that in a strange way, they're sort of chanting that out and calling that out was a sort of welcoming message to me. So as a Black male, I've done several projects as a fellow and as a specialist in different countries around the world. I've learned that my understanding of how racism works or prejudice works doesn't actually match up all the time with other people's viewpoints. So that is a bit of a challenge to sort out what it is to expect and how you will deal with it. So that's what I can say about challenges.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing. I'll ask Bethany to speak to the same question next, please.
Okay. So with opportunities, so with all of my projects, they were in Morocco. And I know at least with my first two projects, I was the first African-American female educator that my participants had. So I embraced this opportunity just to be a primary source for them to for different personal accounts, perspectives on news or anything that's happened in the past. Specifically with news, they wanted to know how accurate everything was being portrayed. At that time, that was Black Lives Matters, and the movement just started, as well as the ban on certain Muslim countries, citizens coming to the United States. So they're very curious if they would be accepted. Also, it was just an opportunity to share my values, historical events relating to African Americans. And I think by doing this, my students felt open enough to ask me questions in the most respectful way that they could. But it was also an opportunity for me to learn about their culture. I didn't know a lot about the Moroccan culture, so they're very willing to share about the Amazigh culture. And I believe now 2 times my projects have happened during Ramadan, so I've learned a lot more in depth about the traditions. Concerning challenges, I didn't have too many. I think the only challenge was I don't personally represent all facets of being an African American. So maybe sometimes they would ask me questions that I wouldn't know the answer to. So I would either have to do some research there in class or get back to them in the next class, or ask friends and family about their experiences. And then with support, just support in the sense that sometimes I wasn't sure what I could share with the students, or exactly what my what the institutions wanted me to teach. So my RELO, Regional English Language Officer, and the professors I worked with at the institutions were very open to collaborating with me and just helping me be the most effective teacher I could be.
Thanks, Bethany. As I'm listening to all of you share your experiences, I, like people in the chat, from what I'm seeing, want to react and ask follow-up questions, but I know we need to keep moving on. So you know, trying to keep us on track here, because we do have some more questions and I really want to leave the time for you all. So so with that, our next question then, how were you able to bring in your own culture and identity into your teaching and daily life in your country of assignment? Walter, can you start us there, please?
Sure. This is a very easy sort of question to answer. I think because the teachers and the students and everyone involved in the programs are very curious about you. They're very interested. And they really want to know about where you're from, your family life, your education, your background, your likes, your dislikes. You're kind of like the odd person out. So they're looking for similarities and ways to relate and connect with you. So bringing that information to them, or adding that, incorporating that in your lessons and presentations and even your daily interactions is a very sort of easy thing to do. I like telling stories, good stories. So I always try to personalize and exemplify with tidbits from my own culture, from where I'm from in the States. And this helps with discussions, and I always try to end these discussions with open-ended questions, such as like, what do you think? What do you do here? Do you do this like we do? And people in general love sharing talking, but they also love talking about their differences as well. So I found it very, very easy to let go and then share whatever it is that I want to bring in about my own culture and my identity. And it has always been very well received.
Thanks, Walter. Bethany, can I hand it back to you to answer this question?
Yes, I agree a lot with what Walter said. Students are just very curious of who you are. I think at first when I started, I didn't want to say too much about who I was, but my students kept asking. So I always made time in class to talk about it. And as Walter said, have open-ended questions for them so that they feel comfortable enough to talk and you can start a dialogue. I think a specific detail I have is with my second project. It was a picture that was shown before. So this was EFL and intercultural awareness. And I wanted to give them an example on how they could introduce certain topics into class. So I had a collage of photos. One was the photo of Black Lives Matters protest, a protest against the war in Ukraine. Another one was a protest against the discrimination Asian Americans were feeling during COVID, as well as a picture of the immigration happening at the border of the United States and Mexico. And then I had another picture that was from the past of Ruby Bridgers walking to school or being escorted to school. And I asked my students, what can you tell me about these pictures? And all of them could tell me about the current events because it was in the news. But then I asked any of them if they knew who Ruby Bridgers was, and they did not. So I started to discuss with them how she was the first African-American to go to a desegregated school. And I wanted to enlighten this on them because I wanted them to understand that all of the current events weren't just sporadic. They were not random. They were being built up from past experiences. And I wanted them to have a little bit more of a foundation and an understanding about current events. And so it was nice to be able to talk to them about something that has personally affected affected me, and to be able to tell them stories that I've heard from family members, and also just to enlighten them that this wasn't too long ago. So that was one way I was able to put my identity into the class.
Great, thanks, Bethany. Ollie, over to you. How were you able to bring in your culture and identity?
Sure. Like Walter and Bethany, I was the first African-American teacher that they had constant access to. So of course they wanted to know everything about me, everything about the US, how do I survive being a Black person here, those kinds of things. And so I would just open up each class, and allow them to ask one question, one cultural question. What do you want to know? And then we'd spend a few minutes talking about that. And I also try to connect with them outside of the classroom culturally. My husband traveled with me, so once a month we would have a few students over and watch movies and then discuss them, talk about some of the vocabulary, the slang, or whatever was used in the movie, and get them more acclimated to US language, I guess, the way we use the language. And then sometimes, we would have hamburgers and fries or pizza, and then other times they would bring a cheque or rigras. So we were sharing food at the same time. Another aspect of culture sharing, I identify as an African-American Muslim, and Guinea is a majority Muslim country. So I was able to connect or identify with that component of the culture. However, it forced me to be more conscious of my students who were Christians, who were a minority group in the country. During one of my first classes, one of the Christian students asked me if she would get a fair grade because I was a Muslim teacher. And that question presented an opportunity to open a large discussion about how it feels to be a minority religion in a country. So Muslims were majority in Guinea, but in the US, Muslims are minority religion. So we were able to compare and contrast how it feels in different locations to be majority, minority of religion, race, or whatever. Whenever you're in a new spot, there's going to be some differences in integrating into that new culture. So I always try to turn it into a learning opportunity, and the audience is always interested in your side because they can learn a lot.
Fascinating stuff. And those are some lucky students to get invited over to the teacher's house for movie night for sure. That sounds great. So I had hoped to open it up to questions, but we still have two more questions to make the rounds with that I think are important ones. So let's do that and see where we are for time at that point. Our next question is, how has your experience with English language programs impacted, enhanced, and furthered your TESOL career? And I'll ask Bethany to start, please.
Okay, so English language programs has impacted my TESOL career by connecting me with the teachers, well, the pre-service teachers and the professors I worked with in Morocco. It's also shown me that I can immerse myself in a culture virtually. You don't always have to be in person. It's enhanced my TESOL career just through professional growth and professional development. For each project that you're paired with, it relates to your past experience in one way or another. But also, you want to do a little bit more of research and learning so you can present the information in an effective and clear way. And English language programs provides numerous resources, and one of them is American English. I think that was talked about before. And this just provided me with webinars and articles about my topics, but also just how to teach virtually, since this was my first time, as well as English language programs. I took a course on teacher training because all of my projects have been teacher training, as well as a specialist master's course for climate and sustainability. But last but not least, it's furthered my TESOL career in numerous ways. One way was that this past March, I was able to go to the International TESOL Convention in Portland. And this was amazing because I was able to meet everyone that I've ever worked with in person. So my RELO, the team, some of the professors from the institutions, fellow virtual educators, as well as English language programs members that I've only contacted via email. I was also able to participate in a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility session. Another one that I just thought of was when I was at the TESOL convention, I can't remember who I met from BELPAF, but I didn't have time to go to the session. And so I was very happy a couple months ago when I was contacted to do this. So it's just it's opened up a lot of doors for me to meet new people, but it's also prepared me to walk through those doors as well.
Excellent, thank you. Ollie, over to you. How has your experience with our programs furthered your TESOL career?
Sure. So before I mentioned that, I became a fellow almost immediately after I finished my MA TESOL, and I didn't have a lot of, I guess, higher ed teaching experience. So I was a fellow for 2 years, and when I returned to the States, I was interested in a position at a local community college, and I secured that position as an instructor, and I'm sure that my fellow experience moved me to the top of the list for that job. So now I'm an assistant professor there, and I coordinate the ESL program at that college. When my fellowship ended in 2019, I continued to engage with ELP, and it's broadened my view of the TESOL arena. I try to stay engaged, and I just finished serving a year as an alumni ambassador for the program, where I represented English language programs at state and regional conferences for recruiting purposes. I've worked as a part of a team that created DEI materials for the new fellow orientation. And like Bethany, I presented at the last International TESOL conference in Portland and talked about my work as a fellow. English language programs has been an integral part of my work as a TESOL professional, both as a way for me to contribute and as a professional development resource. I've met lots of really smart TESOLers, and am happy to have that exposure and a way to network with so many great people.
Terrific, thanks, Ollie. Walter, can you speak to this question, please?
Let me unmute here. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Oh, here I am. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. All right. How has it impacted? Basically, my experience with English language programs has driven my career. It's driven me to the field of publishing, namely educational publishing, and which is a position that I occupy now, as you mentioned, as publisher of ELT books and dual language materials. I think that my experiences in the English language program made me aware of all of the challenges, or most of the challenges, that teachers and students face with textbooks and the materials that they use in the classrooms. Oftentimes they don't have them, or they struggle with knowing how to use them, or knowing which ones will work best for their own language programs, and also selecting materials that work well with their own culture and their sort of their socioeconomic reality. So now I make books. That's basically what I do. I make books, and I constantly pull on the experiences that I learned from the program itself, and they have impacted, and they impact even to this day what I produce. And just to close up now, in producing textbooks, I insist on developing books that are relevant, that are respectful of various people of color, of different religions and ethnicities, and that represent the students in a positive light, and also represent their own socioeconomic reality.
Great, thanks, Walter. And our last question for the group, if we have time to then take one from participants here, but this just what recommendations do you have for any member of the BELPAF community who is considering a cultural exchange experience in programs? And I think there may be some already who've said they're interested in the chat. So we have open ears here. Ollie, can I ask you to start for recommendations?
Sure. So I think it was Walter who mentioned earlier that sometimes that we as people of culture are hesitant to travel abroad, teach abroad, live abroad. I would say that English language programs is a safe and structured way to do that, to go and teach abroad, to immerse yourself in a different culture, and to learn so many new teaching skills, leadership skills, organizational skills, skills that you didn't know you needed, but you do in order to be an effective teacher. So for many assignments, this will be the first time that students and citizens you work with have had constant access to an American and a native English speaker. So it's your opportunity to learn how to communicate with a different community, how to navigate through a different culture. So if you're considering participating in either of the English language programs, then I would just say go for it. It's something you won't regret. You'll have access to tons of resources. Your cultural enrichment will be lifelong. It'll be fun, but there'll also be a lot of days of hard work, but you will be enriched from that. So just do it.
Excellent. Thanks, Ali. Walter, what recommendations would you have?
My recommendation is simply this. I strongly encourage anyone who's even just a wee bit curious to explore the different pathways that the program offers. I think that working in this capacity really strengthens and broadens your professional development. It opens the door to many other professional opportunities by the sheer exposure to key players worldwide in education. You learn how education works and how important decisions are made and how those decisions impact others. And also, I recommend that any potential participant consider, this that I just mentioned, and also as a Black American, the importance of representation. I think it benefits us all as Americans and others outside of the United States to really see and be exposed to the different voices of our American culture.
Thanks, Walter. Bethany, any recommendations you'd like to share for us?
Let me see, because those were all amazing recommendations. I agree that you should go outside of your comfort zone. I think going outside of your comfort zone, you will be exposed to challenges, but that doesn't mean that they're negative challenges. It's just something different. It's a new way of life. It's a new situation. On top of that, what I personally did when I was considering this, I went to the English language program's website. And as Ali said, you can look at the different pathways. And what I did was I looked at who were the people that were going abroad, what were their past experiences, what were they currently doing, where did they go, but specifically what were their projects. I think what really drew me in was the range of what you could do. I thought that maybe I would be specifically teaching English, but I ended up being a teacher trainer, which is now where my career is slowly going toward. But I would say just try. It's definitely been a positive change, I think, for all of us who have been speaking today. And as Ali said earlier, if you have any questions for us, I'm sure we can leave our information if you have any more questions for us.
So you did have one more piece of advice to add. Excellent. 2 minutes, and I know we had one question that came in from the TESOL team, so I don't know if anyone wants to try to answer that. The TESOL team asks, in which cultural context were you able to be your authentic selves? Would any one of our excellent panelists like to offer that? So which cultural context did you feel you were able to be your authentic self?
How should I answer? I shouldn't volunteer before I think of my answer, but I would say in every single context, in every culture, I think you have to be true to yourself. It's a wonderful program, exciting. There are new things every day, but it's also very challenging beyond race. And I think that if you're not true to yourself, if you don't know who you are, I think it opens the doors for some very, very challenging things. And I also think that living and working abroad as well makes you more aware of who you are, how you think, what you do, etc. So for me personally, I've always tried to be myself, my authentic self, whatever that is. I don't know, that sort of changes every day, but that's what I think like right now. So
Great, thanks, Walter. And there are more great questions and comments in the chat, but I do want to be respectful to BELPAF and next presenters and our time. So we'll draw this session to a close, but here on this slide is where you can find the website. And I know Allison, who works with us, has been feeding the chat with other links and the rest. Any of them would be great sources for more information. For these programs that you heard more about, you can find information at elprograms.org. There are specific mailboxes you can write to. Thank you very, very much to BELPAF for including us here. Thank you to all of our audience for your excellent attention and your encouraging comments and your questions. Thanks also to our implementing partners at Georgetown University, and especially to Terrell Hawkins and Allison Camacho, who've helped facilitate this. And a huge thank you to our outstanding panelists. I want to say, Bethany and Ali, I really enjoyed meeting you. Walter, it was great to connect again because I knew you from before, and I was really happy to do that, but really enjoyed, and I think we've all enjoyed hearing you share your experiences and insights. So I will go ahead and turn it back over to our organizers, but big heartfelt thanks one more time. Over.
Thank you all for sharing such important insight and resources. Thank you to the entire U.S. Department of State English Language Program staff. And I'm ready to name drop, so specifically Terrell Hawkins, Russell Borchick, Allison Camacho, and presenters Bethany Vanderhorst, Walter Henderson Jr., Ali Rashid. We do appreciate you for continuing this tradition and being here with us and supporting us, but also we learned so much from you all, from your experiences, from your resources. We know that opportunities are here. We just have to have access to it, and you provide that access that we're looking for. So we are more than grateful to have you here with us.